I still remember my first English class very clearly. I was young, quiet, and hopeful. I walked into the classroom carrying a new book and a heavy fear. The room smelled like chalk and old paper. The teacher stood in front of us and smiled. She spoke English slowly, but to me it sounded fast and strange. My heart began to beat faster. Then it happened. The teacher looked at me and asked a simple question. It was an easy question. I knew the words on paper. I had studied them many times. But in that moment, my mind went empty. My mouth did not move. No sound came out. The room became very quiet. I could feel every eye on me. My classmates were watching. Some were curious, some were impatient. Some were already smiling. My face felt hot. My hands started to shake. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to become invisible. The teacher waited. 5 seconds felt like 5 minutes. Finally, she moved on and asked another student. The class continued, but something inside me broke. I told myself a story in that moment. I told myself that English was dangerous. I told myself that speaking English meant pain. I told myself that silence was safer. That day, English stopped being just a subject. It became a threat. Every English class after that carried the same fear. Every question felt like a test of my worth. I was not afraid of English words. I was afraid of shame. And that fear stayed with me for many years. It followed me outside the classroom, into hallways, into exams, into life. Each time I heard English, my body remembered that moment, and my voice learned to hide, to wait, and to stay silent, even when I wanted to speak. This is not a grammar lesson. I will not teach you rules, tenses, or long lists of words. This is a true story. It is my real experience with fear, silence, and English. If you feel nervous when you speak, this story is for you. I ask you to do one simple thing. Listen slowly. Do not translate every word in your head. Let the story flow. You do not need to understand everything. Understanding will come later. If you stay with me until the end, you will understand why you are afraid to speak English. You will see where that fear was born. And more importantly, you will learn how to break free from it. This story is not about talent. It is about habits, emotions, and courage. You are not broken. You were trained to be afraid, and anything that was learned can be unlearned, step by step. I remember my very first English class as if it happened yesterday. I sat at a small wooden desk, holding a clean notebook and a sharp pencil. I wanted to do well. I wanted the teacher to like me. English sounded new, strange, and exciting, but also scary. The teacher wrote simple words on the board and spoke slowly. I followed along, nodding my head, telling myself that I understood. Then she stopped. She turned toward me, smiled, and asked a question. It was short. It was basic. I had seen the sentence before, but my body froze. My mind went blank. The words disappeared. My mouth stayed closed. No sound came out. Time stretched. The room felt smaller. I could hear my own breathing, loud and fast. I felt the eyes of my classmates on my face. Some stared. Some waited. Some whispered. My face burned. My hands felt cold. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me. In that moment, I was not a student. I was a mistake on display. The teacher waited, then moved on. Another student answered easily. Laughter filled the room. It was not cruel, but it was enough. Something deep inside me learned a lesson that day. I learned that English was dangerous. I learned that speaking meant risk. I learned that silence protected me. From that moment on, English was no longer just a language. It became a source of shame. And every time I heard English again, my body remembered that fear and chose silence over voice. That memory followed me home, followed me into future classes, and slowly shaped how I saw myself. I stopped raising my hand. I stopped trying. I believed fear was normal and confidence belonged only to others forever, or so I thought then. Back. After that first class, I did what I was told to do. I studied. I studied for many years. I memorized words. I copied sentences. I underlined grammar rules. I filled notebooks with English. My notebooks were clean, organized, and full. On paper, I looked like a good student. I knew many words. I could recognize them in books and tests. I understood grammar patterns. I knew when to use the past, the present, and the future. I could choose the correct answer in multiple choice exams. Teachers said I was doing fine. My scores were not bad. From the outside, everything looked normal. But inside, something was missing. When it was time to speak, I froze. When someone asked me a question in English, my mind slowed down. I started translating in my head. I searched for the perfect word. I checked the grammar again and again. By the time I was ready, the moment was gone. English never came out naturally. It did not flow. It did not feel alive. It felt heavy, like I was carrying a box full of rules every time I opened my mouth. Speaking English felt like taking a test in front of people, not like communication. I watched others speak. Some of them made mistakes. Their grammar was not perfect. Their pronunciation was not clear, but they spoke. They smiled. They continued. I wondered why they could do it and I could not. I wondered what secret they had. The truth was painful. English lived in my notebook, not in my mouth. I had trained my eyes and my hands, but not my voice. I had practiced writing, but not speaking. I had learned about English, but I had never lived inside it. Over time, this gap became bigger. The more I studied, the more pressure I felt. I believed that because I studied so much, I should speak perfectly. That belief made me even more afraid. One mistake felt like failure. One pause felt like proof that I was not good enough. So I stayed quiet. Silence became my habit. I told myself I was still learning. I told myself I would speak later, when I was ready. But later never came. Years passed, and my English stayed locked inside my head. I did not lack knowledge. I lacked practice, courage, and permission to be imperfect. But I did not understand that yet. At that time, I only knew one thing. I had studied English for years, and still I could not speak. And that made me feel broken, even though I was not. Over time, fear stopped being a feeling. It became a habit. I did not wake up every day feeling scared. Instead, I organized my life around avoiding English. It felt normal. It felt safe. And that was the problem. I avoided situations where I might need to speak. If I heard foreign accents nearby, I walked the other way. If a group conversation switched to English, I became quiet. I smiled, nodded, and hoped no one would ask me anything. Silence became my shield. When someone spoke to me in English, I used the same sentence every time. My English is bad. I said it quickly before they could expect more from me. It was my escape line. Once I said it, people lowered their expectations, the conversation ended, and I felt relief. But that relief was short. Each time I said those words, something inside me became smaller. I was not just describing my English anymore, I was defining myself. My English is bad slowly turned into I am bad at English. Then it became I am not a speaker. Then it became I am not confident. Fear shaped my choices. I did not apply for opportunities that required English. I stayed quiet in meetings. I let others speak for me. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I did not need English that much. These were lies I used to protect my fear. The worst part was that fear started to feel like my personality. I believed I was naturally shy. I believed I was not the type of person who speaks up. I believed confidence belonged to others, not to me. Fear was no longer something I had, it was something I was. Years passed this way. Fear repeated itself every day, quietly, without drama, and repetition creates habit. Habit creates identity. I did not notice when it happened, but one day I realized something painful. I was not choosing silence anymore. Silence was choosing me. English became a wall between me and the world, and I helped build that wall, brick by brick, every time I avoided, every time I apologized, every time I hid. Fear was familiar. Fear was predictable. Fear felt safe. But safety came with a cost. The cost was my voice. The cost was missed chances. The cost was the life I could have lived if I had spoken. I did not know how to break the habit yet. I only knew that fear had followed me for so long that it felt like home, and leaving it felt more frightening than staying inside it. During those silent years, most of my conversations happened only inside my head. On the outside, I looked calm and quiet. On the inside, my mind never stopped. Every time I heard English, my brain started working too hard, too fast. When someone spoke to me in English, I did not listen naturally. I listened like a machine. I grabbed each word and pulled it into my native language. I translated sentence by sentence, word by word. While the other person was still talking, my brain was already busy converting meaning. By the time I understood the message, the moment to reply had already passed. Then came the second problem. I did not just want to answer, I wanted to answer perfectly. I searched for the right tense, I checked the grammar, I looked for better words. I tried to build a perfect sentence in my head before opening my mouth. That thinking took time, too much time. While I was thinking, the conversation moved on. Someone else spoke, the topic changed. My sentence, still unfinished, became useless. It disappeared before it was ever spoken. Again and again, this happened. I had thoughts, I had ideas, I even had answers, but they stayed trapped inside my head. My brain was loud. It was full of noise, rules, questions, and doubt. My voice was quiet. Sometimes it did not exist at all. This made speaking English feel impossible. It felt like trying to jump onto a moving train. By the time I was ready, the train was already gone. Each failed moment made the next one harder. I began to expect failure, and expectation became reality. I remember many situations like this. Group discussions, simple small talk, even basic greetings. Inside my head, I prepared full speeches. Outside, I smiled and said nothing. People thought I was shy. People thought I was not interested. They did not know that inside I was fighting a battle with my own thoughts. The worst part was the exhaustion. Translating, checking, correcting, and judging every sentence was tiring. After a short conversation, my mind felt heavy. Speaking English did not feel like communication. It felt like mental labor, so I avoided it whenever I could. I compared myself to others. They replied quickly, they laughed, they interrupted. They were not perfect, but they were present. I wondered how they did it. I thought they were smarter. I thought they had a special talent. I did not realize they were doing something simple that I was not doing. They were not translating. They were not waiting for perfect sentences. They were allowing words to come out before fear stopped them. I did not understand this at the time. I believed the problem was my English level. I believed I needed more words, more grammar, more study. So I stayed inside my head and kept thinking my way into silence. Over time, my inner voice became stronger than my real voice. I trusted my thoughts more than my speech. I listened to fear more than instinct. Speaking felt risky. Silence felt controlled. But control came at a price. The price was connection. The price was confidence. The price was expression. I was present in the room, but absent from the conversation. My brain was loud. My voice was quiet. And for a long time, I believed that was just the way I was. I did not know yet that fluency does not start in the head. It starts in the mouth. And until I allowed my voice to be messy, slow, and imperfect, it would remain silent, no matter how loud my thoughts became. During those years, I spent a lot of time watching other people speak English. I did not join the conversation. I observed it. I listened carefully, not to learn grammar, but to compare myself with them. I noticed something confusing. Many people spoke English with mistakes. They used the wrong tense, they missed articles, they pronounced words incorrectly. Sometimes their sentences were broken or unclear, but they kept speaking. They did not stop. They did not apologize. They did not look ashamed. And people understood them. They laughed. They replied. The conversation continued. The world did not stop because of a mistake. This made me feel something dark and uncomfortable. Envy. I wondered why they could speak so freely while I stayed silent. I wondered why my English, which was better on paper, could not come out of my mouth. I listened closely and realized something painful. Their English was not perfect, but it was alive. Mine was correct, but it was hidden. Every time I saw someone speak without fear, a quiet question appeared in my mind. What's wrong with me? I asked that question again and again. Maybe I was too slow. Maybe my brain worked differently. Maybe I did not have confidence like them. Maybe I was just not meant to speak English. These thoughts grew stronger each time I compared myself. I told myself that those people were brave. I told myself they were special. I told myself they were born confident. I never considered that they were simply allowing themselves to be human. The jealousy made things worse. Instead of motivating me, it pushed me deeper into silence. I became more careful. I waited longer before speaking. I raised my standards even higher. I believed I needed to be perfect to speak. That belief became my prison. Sometimes I imagined myself speaking like them, relaxed, natural, free. But when the moment came, fear returned. My mouth stayed closed, my chance passed, and the question came back. What's wrong with me? I did not ask that question with kindness. I asked it with blame. I assumed the problem was inside me, not in my method. I assumed something was missing in me, not in how I learned. I did not see the truth yet. The truth was simple, but invisible to me at that time. Those people were not fearless. They were just not fighting themselves. They were not translating. They were not judging every word. They were not waiting for permission to speak. They accepted mistakes as part of communication. I treated mistakes as proof of failure. Watching others speak freely showed me what I wanted, but it also reminded me of what I believed I could not have. And until I changed that belief, envy would continue to grow, and my voice would continue to disappear right when I needed it most. During the silent years, I did not just avoid speaking English. I explained my silence to myself. I created reasons that sounded logical and safe. Over time, those reasons turned into lies I believed without question. The first lie was simple. I don't have talent for languages. I said it many times. I said it when I failed to speak. I said it when others succeeded. It helped me feel less responsible. If talent was missing, then effort did not matter. But deep inside, this lie hurt me. It told me that no matter how hard I tried, I would never be enough. The second lie came later. I'm too old. I told myself that English was only for children, for students, for young people. I believed that my brain was already fixed. I believed learning had an expiration date. This lie gave me an excuse to stop trying, but it also stole my hope. It made me feel late, slow, and left behind. The third lie was the strongest. English is not for people like me. I did not say this out loud, but I felt it. I believed English belonged to confident people, loud people, smart people. I believed it belonged to others, not to me. This lie turned English into a foreign world where I did not belong. Each lie sounded different, but they all served the same purpose. They protected my fear. If the problem was talent, age, or personality, then I did not have to face the real issue. I did not have to face fear itself. But these lies had a cost. They shaped how I saw myself. They made fear feel permanent. They turned a temporary struggle into a lifelong identity. I stopped asking how to improve. I started explaining why I couldn't. Slowly, I began to see cracks in these lies. I saw people with no talent become fluent through practice. I saw older learners speak with confidence. I saw shy people communicate freely. The lies no longer matched reality. The truth was uncomfortable. The truth was that I had learned to fear mistakes. I had learned to avoid discomfort. I had learned to stay silent. These were not talents or age problems. These were habits. And habits can change. But at that time, I was not ready to accept this. The lies still felt safer than the truth, because the truth demanded action. The truth demanded responsibility, and responsibility felt heavier than fear. So I held on to the lies a little longer. They kept me quiet. They kept me comfortable. They kept me stuck. And until I questioned them, nothing changed. My English did not improve. My confidence did not grow. My voice stayed inside me. I did not know it yet, but breaking free would not start with learning more English. It would start with unlearning these lies, one by one, slowly, honestly, and without excuses. The breaking point came during a moment that should have been simple. It was a work meeting with a few new people, some of them from other countries. We were sitting around a table, laptops open, coffee cups half full. The conversation was calm, professional, normal. English was the language of the meeting. At first, I told myself I would just listen. I always did that. I took notes, I nodded, I smiled at the right moments. Inside, I hoped no one would ask me anything directly. But then it happened. One of them looked at me and asked a very simple question. "What do you think?" That was all. Not a complex question, not a technical one, just an opinion. Something I already knew in my own language, something I had thought about many times. But my body reacted before my mind. My chest tightened, my throat closed, my heart started racing. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Words appeared in my head, but they were trapped. They came in pieces, half sentences, wrong order, wrong tense. Nothing felt ready. Everyone waited. The silence was loud. I could feel their attention, polite but focused. No one was angry. No one was rushing me. And that made it worse. I had no excuse, no escape, just me and my fear. I tried to speak. One word came out, then another. They sounded wrong. My pronunciation felt strange in my own ears. I stopped. I apologized. I said, "Sorry, my English is not good." The sentence came out automatically, like a reflex. Someone smiled and said it was okay. Someone else continued the discussion. The meeting moved on. On the surface, everything was fine. Inside, I felt very small. I sat there for the rest of the meeting, but I was no longer present. My face stayed calm, but my mind replayed the moment again and again. I heard my weak voice. I saw myself freeze. I felt the heat in my face. Shame settled deep in my stomach. I was not ashamed because I made a mistake. I was ashamed because I had stayed silent again. I was ashamed because I had something to say and did not say it. I was ashamed because fear had spoken for me. After the meeting, I walked outside alone. The city noise surrounded me, but I felt distant from everything. I kept thinking, why can't I do something so simple? I was not angry at English. I was angry at myself. That moment of shame hurt deeply, but it also did something important. It showed me the price of staying silent, and for the first time, that price felt higher than the fear itself. I did not know the solution yet. I didn't have a plan, but I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I could not continue like this. Something had to change. That moment did not disappear after the meeting ended. I carried it with me for days. It followed me home. It followed me into silence. Every time I replayed it in my mind, the feeling came back. The tight chest, the quiet voice, the shame. But something was different this time. Before, shame made me hide. This time, it made me tired, deeply tired. I realized I was exhausted from running away from English, running away from situations, running away from myself. For the first time, I did not want to escape anymore. I asked myself a hard question. How many more moments like this will I accept? How many meetings will I sit through in silence? How many opportunities will I watch pass by because I am afraid to speak? How many times will I say, "Sorry, my English is bad," and shrink a little more inside? That question hurt more than the fear. I understood something very clearly. Avoiding English was not protecting me. It was slowly destroying my confidence. Silence was no longer safe. Silence was expensive. That was when pain changed its shape. It stopped being something I wanted to escape. It became something I could use. One night, alone in my room, I said the words out loud. Not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly. I will face English. Not tomorrow, not when I feel ready. Now. This decision was different from all the others I had made before. Before, I wanted to be good at English, fluent, perfect, confident. This time, my goal was simpler. I wanted to survive. I wanted to survive conversations, meetings, daily life. I wanted to express a basic thought without panic. I wanted my voice to exist, even if it was weak. I stopped thinking like a student. I started thinking like a human. I did not need advanced vocabulary. I did not need perfect grammar. I needed courage. I needed practice. I needed repetition. I needed to speak even when my voice shook. I accepted something important that night. Speaking badly was better than not speaking at all. Making mistakes was better than disappearing. Sound was better than silence. This decision did not remove my fear. The fear stayed. My hands still shook. My heart still raced. But now, fear was no longer in control. It was just a feeling, not a command. I told myself, I will speak even when I am afraid. Not loudly, not perfectly, just honestly. I also changed how I saw English. It was no longer a school subject. It was no longer a test. English became a tool for survival, a bridge to people, a way to exist in the world I was already living in. That shift mattered. When you learn to impress, fear grows. When you learn to survive, fear loses power. I stopped asking, how can I sound smart? I started asking, how can I be understood? I stopped waiting to feel confident. I started acting before confidence arrived. That night did not change my English level, but it changed my direction. For the first time, I was not chasing fluency. I was choosing presence. I was choosing voice over silence. I was choosing discomfort over regret. Pain had finally done its job. It pushed me forward instead of pulling me back. I did not know how long the journey would be. I did not know how many mistakes I would make, but I knew this with certainty. I was done running. From that moment on, English was no longer something I avoided. It was something I faced. After making the decision to face English, I did what I had always done before. I returned to grammar. It felt familiar. It felt safe. It felt like real learning. I bought new books, thick books, grammar books with clear rules, tables, and explanations. I told myself that this time would be different. This time I would understand everything. This time, grammar would save me. Every night, I sat at my desk and studied. I underlined sentences. I highlighted rules. I wrote notes in the margins. I copied examples into my notebook. My pages filled quickly. My handwriting was neat. My notes looked serious. On paper, I was improving again. I learned more tenses. I reviewed conditionals. I memorized sentence structures. I told myself, if I know enough rules, speaking will become easy. That idea made sense in my head. Knowledge felt like control. Control felt like confidence. But when real life arrived, nothing changed. The next time someone spoke to me in English, my body reacted the same way. My chest tightened. My mind rushed. My mouth stayed quiet. All those rules did not help me answer a simple question. Instead, they made things worse. Grammar crowded my mind. When I wanted to speak, 10 rules appeared at once. Past or present, simple or continuous, correct preposition or wrong one. My brain became busy again. I was thinking, not communicating. The moment passed. Silence returned. I realized something painful. Grammar did not give me a voice. It gave me more reasons to stay quiet. The more I studied, the higher my standards became. I believed that because I knew more, I should speak better. That belief increased the pressure. One small mistake felt unacceptable, so I waited, and did not speak. My notebooks were full, my confidence was empty. I also noticed another problem. Grammar study was passive. I was sitting, reading, writing. But speaking is active. Speaking requires action, sound, and risk. Grammar allowed me to avoid that risk while still feeling productive. It was a perfect trap. I told myself I was learning, but I was not practicing the one thing I needed most. My mouth remained untrained. My voice remained unused. My fear remained untouched. At that point, frustration grew. I asked myself, why am I still silent? I was doing everything right, according to my old beliefs. I was studying hard, I was disciplined, I was serious. But English did not come out. That was when I finally accepted a hard truth. Grammar was not the problem. Grammar was not the solution either. It was only a tool, and I was using the wrong tool for the wrong job. You do not learn to swim by reading about water. You do not learn to speak by writing rules. I was trying to think my way into fluency, but fluency does not live in the notebook. It lives in the mouth. More grammar did not help. It only made my silence feel smarter. After grammar failed, I looked for motivation. I watched videos about learning English. I listened to people telling their success stories. They spoke with confidence. They smiled. They said, "You can do it." Their words made me feel hopeful. For a short time, motivation felt powerful. I felt excited. I imagined myself speaking English fluently. I promised myself I would change. I believed that feeling inspired was the first step. But inspiration did not last. After the video ended, real life returned. Fear returned. Silence returned. I did not practice speaking. I did not open my mouth. I only consumed more content, more videos, more podcasts, more advice. Motivation became entertainment. I confused feeling inspired with taking action. Watching others succeed felt easier than trying myself. I told myself I was preparing. I told myself I was learning. But I was still avoiding the hard part. Hope replaced discipline. I waited to feel confident before speaking. I waited for fear to disappear. That moment never came. Motivation goes up and down. Fear stays when habits stay the same. Without action, motivation fades. Each day I felt inspired, but unchanged. Each night I promised tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow always looked like yesterday. I learned a hard lesson. Motivation is not enough. Motivation starts movement, but it cannot replace practice. It cannot replace repetition. It cannot replace discomfort. Real change does not come from watching. It comes from doing. I did not need more speeches. I needed more speaking. Until I accepted that action must come before confidence, not after, motivation would remain a feeling, not a force. And feelings alone could not give me my voice back. The truth arrived quietly, but it hit hard. I did not lack knowledge. I never truly did. I knew this when I was honest with myself. I could read articles. I could understand videos. I could pass tests. English was not foreign to my brain. It was foreign to my mouth. For a long time, I believed I needed more information, more rules, more tips, more explanations. But information was never the missing piece. I already had enough. What I did not have was a habit. I did not have the habit of speaking. Speaking is not a skill you store in your head. It is a behavior you repeat with your body. It lives in the mouth, the breath, the rhythm of sound. And habits are built through action, not understanding. I realized something uncomfortable. I had practiced silence every day. I had trained myself to pause, to hesitate, to stay quiet. That was my real habit. And habits, good or bad, grow stronger with repetition. Every time I chose not to speak, I reinforced silence. Every time I waited for the perfect sentence, I trained fear. My brain became excellent at avoiding English, not using it. This was difficult to accept because it meant responsibility. It meant the problem was not outside of me. It was not teachers. It was not books. It was not age. It was my daily behavior. But this truth was also freeing. If silence was a habit, then speaking could become one too. I did not need to become smarter. I did not need to become braver overnight. I needed to become consistent. I needed to speak a little every day, even when it felt uncomfortable, especially when it felt uncomfortable. Fluency was not missing, it was undeveloped. That realization changed everything. It shifted my focus from learning more to doing more, from thinking to acting, from waiting to starting. The hard truth was simple. I did not fail because I was incapable. I failed because I never trained my voice. And once I saw that clearly, I finally knew where to begin. Calm, warm female voice. Slow, clear American accent. Emotional, supportive storyteller. Gentle pauses. Inspiring, human, non-robotic tone. The real change did not come from studying harder. It came from changing how English lived in my daily life. One simple idea changed everything for me. Stop studying English, start living English. I stopped treating English like a school subject. I stopped sitting at a desk, opening a book, and telling myself, now I will learn English. That approach always created pressure. Instead, I brought English into ordinary moments. I listened while washing dishes. The water was running. My hands were busy. My mind was relaxed. I played simple English audio in the background. No subtitles, no pausing, no trying to understand every word. English became sound, not a problem to solve. Some words passed by, some sentences stayed. That was enough. I listened while walking. I listened while cleaning. I listened while resting. English stopped demanding my full attention. It became part of the air around me. Then I did something that once felt strange and uncomfortable. I talked to myself. At first, it was awkward. I felt silly. I spoke in short sentences, very simple sentences. I am tired. I need coffee. Today was hard. I said them out loud, slowly, clearly. There was no audience, no judgment, no correction, just my voice. I did not care if the sentence was perfect. I cared if it came out. Speaking to myself trained something important. It trained my mouth to move without fear. It trained my brain to connect meaning directly to sound. The biggest rule I followed was simple: no translating. When a thought came, I tried to express it directly in English. If I did not know the word, I used another word. If I did not know the sentence, I made a shorter one. I refused to go back to my native language. At first, this felt slow. My sentences were basic, my vocabulary was small, but something important was happening. English was no longer traveling through translation. It was forming its own path. I noticed a change. My brain became quieter. I was no longer building sentences in my head like a machine. Words came out faster, not perfectly, but naturally. The fear did not disappear, but it became weaker. Familiarity replaced tension. English started to feel human. Living English also meant accepting mistakes as normal. I stopped correcting myself every time. I stopped interrupting my own speech. I let sentences finish, even if they were wrong. That freedom mattered more than accuracy. Accuracy can be fixed later. Silence cannot. Day by day, English became part of my routine, not a special event. There was no study time in real life. There was only life with English inside of it. This shift changed my relationship with language. English stopped being something I prepared for. It became something I used. I was not trying to impress anyone. I was not trying to sound smart. I was trying to exist in English. That made all the difference. When English lives only in books, it stays quiet. When English lives in your daily actions, it finds a voice. I did not become fluent overnight, but I became comfortable, and comfort opened the door that fear had kept closed for years. That was the moment English stopped being a subject I studied. It became a language I lived. I made a strange decision that went against everything I had learned before. I decided to speak bad English on purpose, not secretly, not accidentally, on purpose. For years, I believed mistakes were dangerous. I believed they proved I was not good enough. So I waited. I waited until sentences felt perfect. That waiting kept me silent. Now I flipped the rule. I gave myself permission to speak wrong English. I spoke even when the sentence sounded simple. I spoke even when the grammar was broken. I spoke even when my pronunciation felt strange. I stopped stopping myself in the middle of a sentence. I let words fall out naturally, without checking them. At first, it felt uncomfortable. My brain screamed, "This is wrong." My fear whispered, "They will judge you." But I kept going. Something surprising happened. People understood me. Not perfectly, not every time, but enough. Communication happened. Meaning traveled from me to them, and nothing terrible happened. No one laughed, no one rejected me. The world stayed normal. I realized I had been aiming for perfection instead of connection. I changed my priority. I no longer asked, "Is this correct?" I asked, "Is this clear?" I focused on speed, not beauty, on reaction, not accuracy. I replied quickly, even with short sentences, even with basic words. Fluency began to grow from movement, not correctness. Bad English was not the enemy. Silence was. Each time I spoke badly, fear lost power. Each mistake became proof that mistakes were survivable. Over time, my confidence did not come from being right, it came from continuing. Speaking badly on purpose trained my reflexes. My brain stopped freezing. My mouth learned to move before fear could stop it. And slowly, very slowly, bad English started becoming better English. Alongside this, I followed one simple rule. One rule per day. I stopped overwhelming myself. No long lists, no big goals, just one small focus each day. Today, I focus on past tense. Tomorrow, I focus on questions. Another day, I focus on pronunciation of one sound. I repeated that one thing again and again during the day, while walking, while talking to myself, while listening. Repetition replaced pressure. This repetition rebuilt my brain. It created new pathways. English stopped feeling foreign. It became familiar through small daily exposure. I learned that the brain changes through consistency, not intensity. Big effort once a week did nothing. Small effort every day changed everything. One rule per day kept me calm. It kept me moving. It gave me direction without fear. I was no longer chasing fluency. I was building it, quietly, patiently, step by step. Speaking badly gave me courage. One rule per day gave me structure. Together, they created something I had never had before: progress. Not perfect, not fast, but real. And for the first time, English felt possible, not because I was better, but because I finally allowed myself to begin. The first real change did not come with a long conversation. It came with one simple sentence. I remember the moment clearly. Someone asked me a basic question in English. Nothing special, nothing difficult. In the past, I would have smiled and stayed quiet, or I would have said my usual line and escaped. But this time, something was different. I did not stop to translate. I did not search for perfect words. I did not wait. I just spoke. The sentence was short, very simple, maybe even childish, but it came out of my mouth without a fight, without panic, without apology. And then something unexpected happened. The other person understood me. They nodded, they replied. The conversation moved forward naturally. No one corrected me. No one looked surprised. No one cared that my sentence was basic. That moment felt small from the outside, but inside it was huge. For the first time, English came out of me instead of staying trapped in my head. For the first time, I did not feel like English was an exam. It felt like communication. I felt a quiet shock. So this is possible. That single sentence broke a belief I had carried for years. The belief that I could not speak. The belief that I needed more preparation. The belief that I was not ready. I realized something important in that moment. Fluency does not start with long speeches. It starts with one sentence that actually comes out. That sentence gave me proof, not hope, proof. Proof that my voice existed. Proof that fear was not permanent. Proof that silence was not who I was. After that, nothing was magically easy. I still felt nervous. I still made mistakes. But something fundamental had changed. I no longer asked myself, can I speak English? I asked, what will I say next? That shift mattered. Confidence did not arrive like a sudden gift. It arrived quietly, built on that one sentence, a sentence that was not perfect, not impressive, but real. That first sentence was a turning point. It did not make me fluent, but it made me brave enough to continue. And once a voice is heard for the first time, it becomes much harder to silence again. After that first sentence, I understood something that changed how I saw confidence forever. Confidence did not come before action. It came after. For many years, I waited to feel confident before speaking. I told myself, when I feel ready, I will talk. But that day showed me the truth. I spoke first. Confidence followed later. It was not loud confidence. It was not strong or proud. It was quiet, gentle, almost invisible, but it was real. Each time I spoke, even a little, something inside me shifted. I felt slightly less afraid the next time. Not fearless, just less afraid. That small change mattered. I learned that confidence is not something you discover, it is something you build. You build it the same way you build muscle, with repetition, with effort, with discomfort, one small action at a time. After that first win, I kept going. I spoke short sentences. I asked simple questions. I answered even when my voice was not steady. Some days were better than others. Some days I felt brave. Some days I felt scared again. But now, fear no longer stopped me completely. Every action sent a message to my brain. I survived this. I can do this again. Confidence grew from evidence, not imagination. Before, my brain only had evidence of silence. Now it had evidence of speech. That evidence slowly changed my self-image. I stopped seeing myself as someone who cannot speak. I started seeing myself as someone who was learning to speak. That difference was powerful. I also stopped waiting for motivation. I acted even when I did not feel ready, especially when I did not feel ready. Action became my new habit. I noticed something interesting. The more I spoke, the less important confidence became. I did not need to feel confident to act. I only needed to act. Confidence became a result, not a requirement. This realization removed a heavy burden. I no longer judged myself for feeling afraid. Fear was allowed. Fear was expected. It was not a failure. It was part of the process. I stopped asking, why am I still nervous? I started asking, did I speak today? That question was enough. Over time, confidence became stronger, not because fear disappeared, but because I proved to myself that fear did not control me. Confidence did not arrive as a sudden moment. It arrived quietly, built on many small wins. Each sentence added a brick. Each attempt made the foundation stronger. Now I know this clearly. Confidence is not something you find inside yourself. It is something you earn through action. You do not wait for confidence to speak. You speak and confidence grows. That truth changed my learning. It changed my behavior. And slowly, it changed my life. Because once you understand that confidence comes after action, not before, you stop waiting. And when you stop waiting, everything starts to move. For a long time, I believed something was wrong with me. I believed I was weak, slow, or incapable. But later I understood a deeper truth. I was not broken. I was trained to be silent. From the beginning, the education system taught me one clear message. Mistakes are bad. Wrong answers bring embarrassment. Speaking without certainty brings judgment. Silence, on the other hand, is safe. In school, the teacher asked questions. One student answered. If the answer was wrong, the class reacted. Sometimes there was laughter, sometimes there was correction, sometimes there was disappointment. Even when it was not cruel, it was enough. The message was clear. Do not be wrong in public. So I learned to wait. I learned to raise my hand only when I was sure. I learned to speak only when I had the correct answer. I learned that being quiet was better than being wrong. This habit followed me into language learning. English became another subject where mistakes felt dangerous. We were taught grammar first, rules first, perfection first. Speaking came last. And when speaking came, it came with pressure. Pressure to be correct, pressure to sound smart, pressure to not embarrass yourself. No one taught us how to be wrong and continue. No one taught us that mistakes are part of communication. So we adapted. We stayed quiet. We waited. We hid behind notebooks and exams. We became good students, but silent speakers. Fear of mistakes slowly turned into fear of speaking. Fear of being judged became stronger than the desire to communicate. This was not a personal failure. It was training. When you repeat silence for years, silence becomes automatic. When you avoid mistakes long enough, your brain connects mistakes with danger. And when danger appears, the body shuts down. That is exactly what happened to me. Every time I wanted to speak English, my body reacted as if I was under threat. Not because English was hard, but because speaking felt risky. My fear was learned, not natural. And anything learned can be unlearned. Understanding this changed how I saw myself. I stopped blaming my personality. I stopped calling myself shy. I stopped believing I lacked courage. I was not weak. I was conditioned. Conditioned to stay quiet. Conditioned to avoid risk. Conditioned to protect myself from shame. Once I saw that clearly, something shifted. I felt relief. I was not broken. I did not need to fix myself. I needed to retrain myself. That meant allowing mistakes. That meant speaking before certainty. That meant choosing growth over safety. It was uncomfortable. It still is sometimes. But discomfort is not danger. It is learning. When you understand that your silence was trained, not chosen, you stop hating yourself for it. And when you stop hating yourself, change becomes possible. You are not broken. You were trained to be silent, and training can always be changed. Once I understood that fear was learned, a new idea became possible. If fear can be learned, then courage can be learned too. That thought changed everything. Fear did not appear in me by accident. It was built slowly through repeated experiences. Each time I stayed silent, fear grew stronger. Each time I avoided speaking, my brain learned that silence meant safety. Over time, fear became automatic. But the brain does not care whether a habit is good or bad. It only cares about repetition. The brain changes based on what we do again and again. This is not motivation. This is biology. When I repeated silence, my brain built strong pathways for avoidance. When I repeated fear, my brain treated fear as normal. That is how learning works. But the same system can work in another direction. When I started speaking, even with fear, my brain received new information. It learned that speaking did not lead to disaster. It learned that mistakes did not cause rejection. It learned that communication was possible. Each small action rewrote the brain. This is how courage is built, not through thinking, not through wishing, through action. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement in the presence of fear. Every time I spoke while afraid, I trained courage. Every time I acted despite discomfort, I weakened fear. At first, courage was very small, almost invisible. It felt like a quiet choice, not a strong emotion, but repetition gave it strength. The brain is flexible. It adapts. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. I simply call it hope. The same brain that learned to freeze can learn to move. The same brain that learned silence can learn speech. Nothing is permanent. This realization removed another heavy burden. I stopped waiting to feel fearless. I accepted fear as part of learning. I stopped fighting fear and started walking with it. Fear no longer meant stop. Fear meant practice. Each time fear appeared, I used it as a signal that I was growing, a signal that I was stepping outside old habits. Slowly, courage became familiar. Not comfortable, but familiar, and familiarity creates calm. I noticed that my reactions changed. My body did not panic as quickly. My voice did not disappear as often. My mind stayed clearer. This did not happen because I was special. It happened because I practiced differently. Fear was learned through repetition. Courage was learned the same way. That truth gave me control. I could not erase my past, but I could choose what I practiced today, and what I practiced today would shape who I became tomorrow. You are not stuck with fear. You are not limited by your past. Your brain is not fixed. If you learned fear, you can learn courage, and courage, practiced daily, becomes confidence over time. Not suddenly, not magically, but reliably. And that makes all the difference. Before this story ends, I want to leave you with 5 simple lessons. Not theories, not motivation. Lessons learned through fear, silence, and action. First, fluency is a habit. It is not a gift. It is not talent. It is not something you wait for. Fluency is built the same way any habit is built, through repetition, through use, through daily contact with the language. If you practice silence, you become silent. If you practice speaking, you become a speaker. There is no shortcut, only direction. Second, fear means growth. Fear is not a sign that you are weak. Fear is a sign that you are stepping into something new. Every time fear appears, it means you are leaving an old comfort zone. Growth always feels uncomfortable before it feels normal. Do not run from fear. Walk with it. Third, bad English is better than silence. Silence teaches nothing. Silence builds nothing. Silence only protects fear. Bad English communicates. Bad English creates connection. Bad English trains your mouth and your brain. Every imperfect sentence is a step forward. Perfection is not the goal. Expression is. Fourth, small daily practice wins. Big effort once a week does not change your brain. Small effort every day does. 5 minutes of speaking every day is more powerful than 2 hours once a week. Consistency beats intensity, always. Your brain changes through repetition, not pressure. Fifth, you are not late. This is one of the biggest lies people believe. You are not too old. You did not miss your chance. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are because of what you practiced before. And from today, you can practice something new. Learning does not expire. Growth does not have a deadline. These lessons are simple, but they are not easy. They require patience. They require honesty. They require action, even when fear is present. If you remember only one thing, remember this. You are not broken. You were trained in a certain way, and training can always be changed. Fluency does not begin when fear disappears. It begins when you speak anyway. You do not need to become someone else. You need to practice becoming yourself in English. One sentence at a time, one day at a time. That is how change happens. You are not stupid. You are not slow. You were just trained to be afraid. This story is not here to impress you. It is here to remind you of who you really are. You have a voice. You have a future. And you have the power to change how you speak, think, and live. If this story touched you, and if you felt something shift inside, do not ignore it. That feeling is your signal. Subscribe to this channel, not for entertainment, not for noise. Subscribe to join a community of people who are rebuilding their confidence, their voice, and their future. Here, you will not be judged for mistakes. You will not be rushed. You will grow at your own pace. This is not the end. This is your beginning. One sentence, one story, one brave step at a time. Your voice matters, and it deserves to be heard. Start today. Speak anyway. I will be here with you. Every step forward counts. Always.